Good morning, NFC East. What a great Tuesday. What a great weekend for the division. The best division in football, the NFC East. The first division since 1997. The first division since the 2002 realignment, when they went from 5 teams to 4 in each division and created 8 14 divisions to take 3 teams to the divisional round of the playoffs. Shout out NFC East. Shout out Philadelphia Eagles, who already had the bye and clinched. Shout out to the New York Giants, and I got to give it up to them. Shout out to the Dallas Cowboys. They destroyed the Tampa Bay Buccaneers last night, Tone DeShields.
Absolutely, man. Good morning, you guys. Oh, man, that was a romping. That game was not competitive at all. And, there's so many nuggets. There's so many things you can pull from the game. Why the Buccaneers lost, why the Cowboys won. But the bottom line is the Cowboys asserted their dominance. And that boy Dak Prescott was playing like he was tired of people talking trash about him. I'll tell you that right now.
Yeah, I got to give it to Dak. 4 touchdown passes, 1 touchdown run. First Cowboys player ever to do that in the postseason. Only the 5th ever to do it in the postseason. And Dak started 0 for 3. I'm like, well, here we go. This is Dak Prescott. Dak Prescott in the playoffs. I know it was only 1 possession, but still, he looked like the bad Dak. But then you saw Dak against the Eagles in Week 16. Dak against good teams when he is very good. Because Dak Prescott can do that. And I want to bring this up to you, Tone, because I thought this is very interesting with Dak. If Dak plays like this the rest of the postseason, are the Cowboys going to the Super Bowl?
Oh, man, they have a couple hurdles to get through first. I'll tell you that right now. Tampa Bay's offense was not lethal at all. Tampa Bay's offense did not put up a fight. They couldn't run the ball. Tom Brady had to throw the ball 66 times. 66 times. A 45, 46-year-old quarterback. I don't know how I feel about that. But again, not having a running game going into the playoffs, it's a shock that you got there in the first place. So Dallas, I'll put it to you this way. Dallas has as good a shot as anybody in the playoffs. I think there are 3 teams who are legitimate contenders to go to the Super Bowl in the NFC. And that is the 49ers, the Philadelphia Eagles, and the Dallas Cowboys. Everyone else is just here for the ride.
I'll say this with Dallas. I didn't like how they celebrated that win last night like they won the Super Bowl, because you got to be realistic here. They beat an 8-9 football team that most years they don't have a home playoff game. They're not even in the playoffs. There were teams that were better than the Tampa Bay Buccaneers that didn't make the playoffs, but I do like how you reward division champions and you give them a home playoff game. You give them that opportunity. And teams with under 500 records in the playoffs have won playoff games. The 2010 Seattle Seahawks with Beastquake come to mind. The 2014 Carolina Panthers, they were a terrible football team, but they won a playoff game. So why not? But they also didn't face a 12-win Cowboys team, a team that has been pretty much a juggernaut the entire season. If you take away their bad losses, and they got a couple bad losses, Dallas is a Super Bowl contender. I agree. I just didn't like the constant celebration of they finally won a road playoff game for the first time in 30 years. Jerry Jones acting like they actually accomplished something when in reality, with how good that team is, they've accomplished nothing yet.
Hey, they can keep that same energy. If that's their Super Bowl, I'll take that, right? See, the thing about the Dallas Cowboys that you always got to be mindful of, they always tend to put the cart before the horse. So you got to be, they got to be mindful of that. And we got to be mindful of the fact that, look, they, like you just said, they beat a really bad Tampa Bay Buccaneers team. Let me make it clear. And I don't want to shortchange the Dallas Cowboys. They did exactly what they were supposed to do. They beat Tom Brady. They broke that curse. They won their first road game in over 20 years. They broke that curse. So I got to give credit where credit is due. Dak Prescott balled out. Dak Prescott played like a top 5 quarterback last night, flat out. But again, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers were 8-9. The Carolina Panthers were 7-10. New Orleans 7-10. Atlanta Falcons 7-10. That division, they could have easily been playing the Falcons in the first round. Honestly, like that's how bad that division was. Like that game was literally a one game, 1.5 game swing. Tampa Bay just got some favorable matchups and took advantage of, certain opponents. And honestly, some of those games they shouldn't have even won. But overall, they beat the Buccaneers. They beat Tom Brady. They slayed that demon. They slayed the road demon. Now they got to go to the next round, and they got to play the 49ers. And that is the real test for me, because I think that game is going to be a shootout probably, or it's just going to be a really physical game, probably in the low 20s. It's not going to be in between. It's either going to be low 20s or like mid 30s.
It's funny how the Cowboys are playing the 49ers again, because growing up, that was the rivalry. Cowboys 49ers, they were bound to be in the playoffs every single year. Met in constant NFC divisional round games, constant NFC championship games. The Cowboys were the 49ers' path to get to the Super Bowl. And the 49ers finally slayed the dragon, and they killed San Diego in the Super Bowl the next week. By the way, that 1994 NFC championship game is one of the best football games, personally, I think I've ever seen. There was just star power throughout both teams. John Madden, Pat Summerall calling that game. I'm getting a little nostalgic here, but you're right, Toad. Especially if the Eagles win Saturday night, that game Sunday is just going to be so monumental for both teams, right? This is a game for the Cowboys. They can prove themselves and finally get out of this hex where they're one of 6 teams to not play in a conference championship game since 1995. I mean, this is with the Cleveland Browns and Houston Texans. That's the category they're in. That's pathetic. Meanwhile, you got San Francisco, who, let's face it, I've said it on here, who have they really beaten? Who have they really played? The last of the elite teams they played was the Kansas City Chiefs, and they gave up a 40-burger. They have a chance to avenge that now. Whoever wins this game is going to get my love and my respect, because these two are 2 of the 5 teams, I think, that can win a Super Bowl in the NFL this year.
It's interesting. I was looking up the Dallas Cowboys 49ers history in terms of the record. Dallas does lead the series 19-18-1. So they've been pretty much neck and neck, nip and tuck through and through their rivalry, or whatever rivalry that does exist. We know that rivalry really stems from the 90s, but again, this is a game that I don't really know who's going to win that game, but if I had to lean any direction, I would have to lean against the 49ers, because I feel like their defense has been more consistent. Now, will Brock Purdy fall off a cliff? We don't know. We just don't know. He hasn't done it yet. Shanahan does a great job at putting him in situations, but the Dallas Cowboys look like they're red hot. They look like they're playing their best football right now. Can they sustain it? It all remains to be seen. They're a team where they're really, really good one week, and then when they get against a certain opponent, they don't really seem like they're that team. And they have another road game. They're going to San Francisco. So it's going to be, again, this Cowboys team is going to be tested throughout these playoffs through and through. And it all remains to be seen who will be the last man standing in the NFC Championship. It's going to be really exciting.
And there's no shame for the Cowboys or the 49ers losing this game. They're 2 really good teams. But this is the best pass rush Brock Purdy will face since he's been the starting quarterback.
Well, there'd be a little shame if one team just gets crushed.
I don't think that's going to happen, though. I think it's going to be one of those. It's going to be one of those 4th quarter games. I'll be shocked if one of these teams wins by, I'll say 13 points or more. But I want to ask you this, Tone.
Yeah.
Just because Dak Prescott's the oldest quarterback left. Did you realize that? 29 years old. He's the oldest quarterback left. When you look at the field in the NFC,
in the playoffs,
he's the oldest quarterback left. He has more playoff wins than Jalen Hurts, Daniel Jones.
Actually, they have the same amount. Daniel Jones has 1. Dak has 1.
No, Dak's got 2 now.
Oh, it happened that fast.
He won last night.
My bad. You're right.
So this I want to ask you. With Jalen Hurts having none yet, Daniel Jones having 1, Brock Purdy having none, this feels like Dak Prescott's best opportunity to control the NFC and go to the Super Bowl. Would you agree with that? Disagree with that?
Oh, it doesn't get any better than this for him. Now, will they be able to accomplish that? Who knows? It's the Cowboys. They've let people down before in dramatic fashion. They've had teams where they were the team and they just couldn't get it done. But they are showing that right now they want it. They're playing like they want it. So again, credit where credit is due. But I think this is the best opportunity for Dak Prescott to really assert himself in this playoffs. He's going up against guys with less experience than him, guys that are younger than him, guys that some people just flat out don't think are better than him, right? So Dak I think there's a lot of pressure on Dak, but I also think there's a lot of pressure on Jalen Hurts to actually be able to sit at that table of having a playoff win. It's going to be really bad for the Philadelphia Eagles if they can't manage to get over the hump and beat the New York Giants, a team that they're more talented than. Some people argue that the Giants have a slightly better coaching. I'm still on the fence about that. But, this playoffs, man, everyone said the NFC wasn't going to be that good. I disagree.
Oh, the NFC's fire because of the Eagles, because of the 49ers, because of the Cowboys. And you even got to respect the Giants. Hey, they have a seat at the table. I wanted to ask you this, Tone, because the Eagles and Giants, and we didn't talk about this backstage, but why are Eagles fans scared to play this football team? Why? The Giants aren't that good. I would get if you're scared to play the Cowboys, because the Cowboys are good. I would get if you're scared to play the 49ers. This Giants team is nowhere near the level of the Eagles, the 49ers, or the Cowboys in terms of talent. I'm not saying Giants can't win, but they are clearly 4 of 4 when it comes to the remaining NFC teams.
Yeah, I think Eagles fans are. I don't know if they're waiting for that one shoe to drop. That's something that's always been a constant. Eagles fans is kind of always waiting for that one shoe to drop. It's too good to be true. Yeah, we're the number 1 seed, but they've been watching all these games throughout the wild card weekend, and they're seeing teams who are playing their best football. And the Philadelphia Eagles did not enter the playoffs playing their best brand of football. And there's nuance to that. There are things that coincide with that. Jalen Hurts' injury. Obviously, that final game of the year, they were just trying to coast and get the number 1 seed and, just take care of business. Coaching has kind of been lackluster in that Saints game. So, and also in that Bears game. So people have some questions and concerns about, more so in my opinion, the coaching staff rather than the roster. I think this is one of the first times where people can say this is not a roster issue. They are nervous about the coaches being able to push the right buttons at the right time. That's just what it appears to be for me. But, what are your thoughts?
Since when are the Giants hot going in the postseason? Because this is what I'm seeing here. Loss, tie, loss, win over the Commanders, did not make the playoffs. Loss, win over the Colts, did not make the playoffs. Loss, win over a Vikings team that had a negative point differential, just like the Giants. I don't understand where this whole narrative, the Giants are red hot going to the playoffs. 3-2's red hot now. Oh, by the way, I don't worry about the Eagles limping into the playoffs because they had pretty much everything clinched. All they had to do was win 1 of 3 in their final 3. It didn't matter when they did it. Jalen Hurts didn't play 2 of those games, and they lost. They're 17-1 in Jalen Hurts' last 18 starts. Mm-hmm. Only Tom Brady, Ben Roethlisberger, Patrick Mahomes, Cam Newton, they're the quarterbacks to do that since 1991, Tone. So I don't understand. Where do people think this Giants team is going to come into Philadelphia and Daniel Jones is going to throw for 300 yards and rush for 75 yards?
I'm with you. I had to remind people yesterday on my own YouTube channel. I had to remind people yesterday that, look, yeah, Daniel Jones had a good game, but they did play the Minnesota Vikings Swiss cheese defense. That defense is so bad. They can't, and it's crazy because they got talent sprinkled in, especially on the edge. But they can't stop a nosebleed. They can't stop a leak. And the Giants took advantage of that. And I told people the Giants are going to win that game because they should have won it the first time. They should have won it the first time. They actually had that game. But, the football gods did their thing, and it didn't happen that way. A 61-yard field goal ended the game. That told me the Giants, they can keep up with this Vikings team. On top of that, I never believed in the Vikings. So I think it's not really a Giants thing because I haven't really heard people nervous about the Giants per se. I think they're paying attention to the rest of the NFC, the teams that are hot like the 49ers and the Cowboys. They see that, and they saw what Daniel Jones and the Giants did. So they're like, okay, everyone's playing their best right now. What are we going to get from our team? You're right. The Giants did not enter the playoffs on the best foot. Eagles didn't enter the playoffs on the best foot. The Cowboys didn't enter the playoffs on the best foot. The hottest team entering the playoffs in the NFC was the 49ers, right? And they have a third-string quarterback, leading the charge. but he's showing that he's here to stay. If you ask me, I think Brock Purdy, they're not. Trey Lance is as good as gone. Jimmy G is going to be as good as gone, but that's a different conversation. I think the Eagles fans are paying attention to the 3 other teams in the division round. They have played one of the best games they've played all year over the wild card weekend, and they're still unsure what they're going to get from the Philadelphia Eagles, especially when it comes to Jalen Hurts' health. And I'm really curious to hear what our guy Garrett Podell has to say about this conversation. You know, he actually just got here in the green room. But Jeff Kerr, any final thoughts before we hit this break?
I wanted to add on to this. Just remember something. The Eagles had 13 days off. You see what's happened when Saquon Barkley got a week off. You saw what happened when Daniel Jones got a week off. They had an opportunity to rest. They had an opportunity to be healthy. The Giants are beaten and banged up. Daniel Jones carried the ball 17 times against the Vikings. And I'm not even counting the hits he took. I'm not even counting that. So keep that in mind. Saquon Barkley got beaten and banged up. So did Daniel Jones. The Eagles, they didn't because they had virtue of not playing last week. The Giants are on a short week too, by the way. This is a short week for them. All the Wednesday stuff is today because they play on Saturday. I just don't understand the fear. But then again, I'm one of those people, you just take the challenge and run with it. This is the matchup Eagles fans should have wanted, and yet they're afraid of it.
That's what I told people. I said, look, this is the matchup you guys want. You either want the Giants or the Seahawks at this point because you're coming off that bye. You know, you're dealing with some nagging injuries. This is the perfect tune-up for the NFC Championship. I don't want to overlook any opponent, but if there's any matchup the Philadelphia Eagles should have won it, and that was the Giants, because in my opinion, you let the Cowboys and the Buccaneers cannibalize each other. You let the Cowboys and 49ers cannibalize each other. And there's this weird stat, and we're going to go to the break after this, but there's this weird stat that says every team that's played the 49ers, that they've lost the game after. So, and that's like a 15-0 record, or 0-15 record, I guess you'll say. So do we want the Cowboys to win that game? I don't know, right? So it's definitely something to think about. But we're going to go into our first break of the morning. We have our guy Garrett Podell, an NFL staff writer for CBS Sports, formerly for NFL Network, CBS 11 Sports. This is going to be a really good show, you guys. You don't want to miss this. We have 2 CBS writers. This is a big deal, Jeff. I'm telling you right now, man. You guys have your pulse on the league, and I'm curious to hear what you guys have to say. You guys are locked in on Good Morning NFC East with Jeff Kerr. I'm your guy, Tone DeShields